Okay, it is 6 o'clock on the 3rd of March of 2025. This is called to order the meeting of the Finance Committee. Present on the phone, we have Michael Bennett. In the room, we have Cheryl Burke, Frank Johnston, Ed Bryan, Bill Smith, Mike Rignetta, and myself. So with that, we will go ahead and get started. So first order of business, I think the minutes from the last meeting just went out today. So we will not have any minutes to approve for this specific meeting. Moving on from that agenda item, we will move to budget updates. And the first up is our fire chief.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So first off, I'd like to thank Frank and Cody. They went through my budget with me a couple times. We had a few meetings. I had to go back and revise a couple of things within the budgets to kind of get where we needed to be with budgets, the actual numbers. So thought pretty long and hard about a lot of things that I wanted to change in here and where I wanted to make my specific cuts to, to meet the needs of the town on the budget side. I went through and I made the cuts that I needed to make, for what's in the best interest of the department. So I'll start off with the first page. Everybody have the sheets or just want me to speak freely?
Yeah, speak freely.
Yeah, okay. All right, so obviously
I have the sheets here on
my salary is the first page that I have, and that's contractual. I still have another year in the contract, so that's basically contractual. It is what it is. Page 2 I have on there is clerical. When I spoke to Cody in regards to this, my understanding is they're still going through negotiations and the new union coming in. So this was basically like a holding point, whether it goes up or down. But I basically have 56,385 is what I have in there. Is what Cody told me the numbers were to hold. So that
for clerical?
Clerical, yes. Oh, yeah. Let me
Yeah, you have to step in a cola or
Step in a cola.
Yep. Question on that or?
No, go ahead.
No. That was the number Cody gave me projected for what could be in the future. So that's what I put in there. You good with that or any other questions? Okay. So the next page is wages. Wages is where, obviously the difficulty comes in. Full-time wages, line number 1 on my full-time wages is basically just a 2%. That's with, I lied. That's anticipated with bachelor's and associate's degrees. So contractually, they have a bachelor's degree in there and an associate's degree in there. Associate's degree is 5% more, and a bachelor's degree is another 3%, which equals an 8% increase. So the number that I have on there is all of the anticipated raises and with associates and bachelor's degrees that are going to be during that fiscal year. Okay. Part-time wages is just basically the 2% COLA anticipated for the COLA raise. The overtime is where we're running a little bit of a difficulty. Obviously, as you can see from my spreadsheets that I have here, what was approved last year was 171, 111. Year before that, I spent 207,349. Year before that was 188, 599.
What's the
So
biggest drivers you have for overtime?
I'm sorry?
What's the biggest driver you have?
I think right now, what's killing me is FMLA. And what I mean by that is last year I had 4 people on FMLA. That's 12 weeks that I paid them and I paid overtime for 12 weeks for full personnel. This year I had somebody on light duty, which is contractual again. Light duty, I paid them for the 5 weeks to do clerical work. And I also paid time and a half to fill the shifts for I like that I say 5.5 weeks, 5 months. 5 months.
Okay.
Now I have 2 more people that are going to be out on FMLA. I had one that took some of their time in the beginning. They still have another 8 weeks that they're going to be out. And then I have one out that's going to be out for the 12 weeks right now that I'm filling time and a half for. So I think what's really killing me is FMLA and contractually, sometimes it's double time, Christmas, certain holidays are double time pay. I had a few months there that the pay scale was really up there. I had a few people out on injury. When a full-time member fills a part-time member's shift on a holdover, it's double time.
Okay.
So we had quite a bit of people out, FMLA, injuries, things like that. And just trying to fill all the shifts plus filling at double time kind of catches up to us.
You're fully staffed right now?
I'm fully staffed right now, yeah. So I have one member that's out FMLA.
Okay.
And one member that's going to be out in the beginning, timeframe might change, but in sometime in April.
Okay.
So he'll be out for another 8 weeks. You know, in the future, I mean, obviously, at the finance committee, and I'd like to see the town maybe establish something for FMLA or things like that, that wouldn't technically hit the budgets from each individual
Yeah,
department, you know what I mean?
yeah.
At least there might be something there that might help, because right now, my overtime for this year to date, I'm at 86%, 86.99% of my overtime budget's already spent.
So of your overtime, how much of it would you attribute to FMLA? More than half of it, it sounds like.
At this point, yes. At this point, I've spent quite a bit of money, and obviously you know as well as I do that I have no control over FMLA.
Yeah.
FMLA is FMLA. They basically send me a letter saying this person will be on FMLA from the next 12 weeks, and that's what I get. So that's really hurting. And I think when people are out on FMLA trying to fill the shifts, you know, we have a smaller department. I think it gets to a point where people are taking so many shifts that they don't want to come back either. You know what I mean? You don't want to work again. You want to work again. The guys that are working, you know, 70 something hours overtime straight. And then, you know,
Is there a max?
technically there is a max. So it's in their contract 48, and then it has to be approved by the chief. But if I didn't approve anything beyond that, I won't let them go beyond 72. And 72, anything going into 72, if it'll put them onto a 72, it has to be approved by me, and I usually don't, unless I absolutely have to.
24, then a 14, or how do they do it?
So right now they work 10-hour days and 14-hour nights.
Okay.
It's a night shift, and it's 2 days a week. So it's a 24-hour shift, a day off. There's two different schedules. One's a 1 on, 1 off, 1 on, 5 off, and the other one's a 1 on, 3 off, 1 on, 4 off. So it's different shift too. Like they technically work 24 hours. Okay.
Can I ask a crazy question?
Well, like a crazy answer.
Is there any benefit to, if you had an additional part-timer on staff, for example, is there any benefit to that in terms of trimming down overtime costs through that resource?
It's a loaded question. And what I mean by that is contractually, I can't.
Okay.
So contractually, the union has to have first rights to an open shift.
Okay.
So if I can't fill it with them, then it goes to a part-time shift. Now, you know, I had a discussion last year with you guys in regards to trying to move some money around to try to bring my staffing up a little bit, which would create, a little bit of funding for the town, and B, less overtime, because I wouldn't have to fill the way I feel now, or wouldn't have the holdovers that I'm looking
Yeah.
for. So currently we have 10 full-time members. I know this can be a little crazy, but we have 4 shifts. I have 3 shifts. I have 2 shifts that have 3 members and 2 shifts that have 2 members. So the 2-member shifts, I fill with call members. If I were to put 2 more full-time members on, that would give me 3 full-time members across the board. So I have 12 members, 3 full-time members each shift, then I'll be paramedics. And I would also fill with a call member during the day.
Right.
Okay, and this is what my, you know, objective was last year, to try to do this. What would happen is if somebody called out sick, I wouldn't necessarily have to fill that shift, because I would still have the same staffing that I have now.
Right.
The benefit would be obviously that I have 3 full-time paramedics and full-time members, and then I would have a call member that could be a medic or it could be an EMT, but I wouldn't have to necessarily fill the double time overtime and or even fill a shift. If I couldn't fill a shift, then I wouldn't fill a shift. I'd run the 3 members and would still have the same staffing. So in the future, yes, my plan is to try to get 2 more members. I think it will cut down on a lot of the overtime. So,
Yeah, why don't you talk a little bit about the cost of what it costs us for 2 more members?
So when I looked into it last year, it was about roughly with everything, obviously no overtime, no anything like that, but it was about $70,000 for a full-time member to start. That's not including, you know, gear, things like that, but we're roughly around $70,000 per man. Might be up a little bit more this year with, you know, raises and things. So what I was planning on doing last year was taking about 140,000, transferring it from the part-time to the full-time, hiring 2 more full-time members to get me to the 3 full-time members on each shift.
Yeah.
And then instead of having the open shifts that I have now that I would have to fill day and night, I would mostly fill the day shifts 7 days a week with calls. So during the day, I'd be running 4 members, which would give me the ability to actually staff 2 different pieces of apparatus. The way we currently run, we only have 3 members. 2 members on the ambulance, 1 member might be in the shift commander's car or in the engine, depending on the call. If 2 people in the ambulance go to the hospital, leaves me 1 person in town. That's it. So by having the 2nd member there, I can staff another vehicle, staff another ambulance, staff another engine, you know what I mean, and also cover the town. Last year, I missed about 90 mutual aid calls by only having one member back here. So when the ambulance goes to the hospital, we do a recall and try to bring anybody from home that's, wants to come in for the shift. So they'll come in, cover the shift while the ambulance is gone. We're probably under 15% on filling those right now. And that's pretty much par with all the other departments around here. All of us are telling, all the other chiefs around here that, we're running late.
So you would need, but you would need two bodies to make that work.
I would need two more members, two more full-time members to make that work. But the difference is, at an ambulance run of $2,600 roughly, for full pay, we've missed 90 mutual aid runs last year.
Yeah.
So that's a significant amount of money.
But also correct me if I'm wrong, when we discussed this a couple of months back, several weeks ago, whatever it was, talked about two full-time members coming on, and that would also cut some of the overtime costs. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yes.
When we would move that into pay of two full-time firefighters.
That would cut some of the overtime, that would cut some of the holdovers down. And the holdovers could be a double time holdover because depending if it's a call shift or a part-time shift that we're filling with a full-time member, that's a double time shift. So it would cut down on some of the overtime costs, most definitely.
Now, when you hire someone, is everyone hired a paramedic?
Everyone's hired as a paramedic, yes. Okay, any questions on that or?
How many part-timers do you have, Chief? You said 10 full-time. How many?
I got 10 full-time and roughly right now, 16, 17 part-time members.
And how many calls for service do you run on average?
Last year we did about 1,800 runs. We're up about 200 runs from what we were last year. And with the new walk-in clinic coming in, that's anticipated to go up even further.
Right.
Plus the 55 and all the community that's coming in. So I'm anticipating probably another 500 to 600 runs more per year.
Okay.
So 500 to 600 more runs more per year. The things you don't think of is obviously the ambulance billing. We pay per ambulance run. So that will go up, that will increase. The ambulance supplies, that'll go up because we're using more supplies. The callback will go up because every time the ambulance goes out, we're doing a callback. Now, if we're running 15% now, do I see it increasing drastically? No, but obviously that'd just be more runs that we're calling back for. So it could have an impact on it.
And you're running about 2,600, you said 2,600 per run?
Right for an ambulance calls for not for Medicare, Medicaid and Medicare are set by the state and it's a specific number. Top of my head, I really can tell you it's like $400 to $500 max of what they pay out.
So private citizen,
yep,
2,600.
but a full insurance person would be about $2,600 and something dollars. So I just changed that recently with the Board of Selectmen, how we bill, what we can bill for, and we're currently working with the billing company now to try to make sure that we can collect the money that we can collect.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
All right. Holiday pay pretty much stays the same, just up at 2%. Longevity is the same exact thing. Incentives went up quite a bit. Incentives are basically certifications. So in their contract, they say that if they get a pro board cert from the Massachusetts Fire Academy, there's technically only a list of them that are in the qualifications. I think there's like a handful, maybe 15 of them that are available to them. Their first certification is $1,000. Anything after that is $250, and it's to a max of $3,000 per person. That's contractual, so that went up quite a bit. I have quite a few members that are going to be getting their first certification for $1,000. So,
how long is this current CBA in effect?
Till next year.
Okay.
Till next year. Sick time buyback, that's basically nothing there, so should be good there. Fire training. Before I switch that, I'm sorry, any questions on any of that? No? Okay. Fire training, full-time wages, that's just the up to 2%, 2% on the increase there. Part-time wages, that was rolled into full-time wages. And even some of these right now, the categories that I have here on these sheets are a little different than what we have, when we pay out everything. But I can explain that. So tuitions and certifications is one of them. Right now, tuitions and certifications is now education reimbursement. So in their contract, we talked about they do get 50% of reimbursement up to $2,500 per person on successfully completing a class. So we pay 50% of their education, and right now I have 7 members at $2,500 a piece, which is $17,500. So that increased, contractually, that increases quite a bit and pretty fast.
So when you say per class, this is specific to the firefighter training?
Yep, so in their contract, it's basically the only class they can take is emergency management, firefighter, excuse me, emergency management,
Fire science,
yeah,
Science.
fire science, yeah.
yep, and there was one more, I believe. But that's the only classes they can take. They're
Okay.
specifically for that and only
Right.
to pay for those classes. That'll get them to that degree, so
Okay,
nothing else.
And they taking these at Massasoit or?
They can take them,
Time.
they can take them anywhere as long as it's a sort of, a college, accredited college. So as long as they show me the paperwork that basically says they, got a passing grade, we'll reimburse them the 50%. But that's right now, that was put into their contract negotiated last year, and that really wasn't discussed too well, so it's
No.
kind of killing me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that jumps things quite a bit. The supplies, I actually dropped, I decreased that. This was one of the cuts that I made because I was trying to keep on the last page, on the overtime. If you notice, I increased my overtime budget as much as I could. So I made cuts throughout my whole budget in order to supply more money elsewhere. So I can show you, instead of making the cuts in my overtime budget, I made cuts elsewhere. Supplies, I dropped a little bit. Out-of-state travel, I dropped a little bit, and then just meetings is basically the same. Meetings are for my captain's meetings, things like that, everything that I have to pay for them to come in. Okay. Questions on fire training? All right, expenses. Expenses is what I went through quite a bit, and I started making a few cuts here and there. Obviously, we need to get to the numbers where we're at. I don't necessarily agree with all the cuts that I made, but we have to get to a certain number to make sure we have the right funding. So I did make cuts on most of these. Nothing went up drastically at all. Even, the new gear in here that I have, turnout gear that I had, I even dropped down a little bit too. I decreased it by about $6,000 just to move money around so that I had money elsewhere.
What's your biggest concern with those cuts?
I mean, right now, we're running at a very bare minimum on everything. And my biggest problem right now is my overtime. Obviously, if you see on my overtime budget, if we're funding 171,000, but last year is 207, before was 188. I'm already in a deficit before I even started my budget.
Yeah.
So I'm just taking money from everywhere else, which is basically the part-time budgets. That just takes away from what I can do and how I can do it.
And what did you do for gear last year? Did you do half of your gear? Is that what?
So what we did was we ended up funding the full sets of gear for everyone, but for the first initial set.
Okay.
All right. I was talking about how the rotation of gear would be and everything else. I took that out of here, put it back into capital so that we can get on a rotation instead of coming up to 200,000 and asking for 200,000 from the town for new sets of gear for everyone. Try to get on a rotation that it's always less money and it's anticipated cost each year. I think it was like 37,200 for 6 sets of gear.
Okay.
So just trying to get on a rotation for that.
So are you still in the position now where everyone has that new set of gear from last year?
So as of right now, everybody has a brand new set of gear.
Okay.
There's still a couple pieces of equipment that I need to buy that I've ordered and I'm waiting for them to get in. So everybody has a brand new set of gear. Nobody has, I shouldn't say nobody. There's a few members that have a backup set of gear. So when we issue this set of gear to everyone, per NFPA standards, they're compliant for 10 years. So after 10 years, you can't wear them. All right. So they just basically, you throw them away because they're not good. You can't wear them and they're not certified to be worn. So what I'm trying to do is get everybody for a second set of gear. I know there's a cost associated with that, and I fully understand that. My argument is if we're spending this much money to outfit everyone to get, the protective gear that they need, and then say you go to a fire, you're covered with carcinogenics and everything else, and our SOP is to wash your gear after every fire. They walk back to the station, their gear's in the washing machine, they get another call, what do they do?
Yeah. And that would seem like it would be something that you could forecast out for a future. So if you know that all the gear you have has a 10-year life,
Mhm.
right? And it was bought last year, setting that as like a 5-year goal to have everyone with a set of backup gear in place. That way you'll just be on a 5-year cycle.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Where you're bringing
Yes.
new gear in every 5 years.
So for capital, I'm putting in for another 6 sets of gear, obviously. So when I sit down with capital, I'm gonna explain to them that, yes, we did just get new gear last year. There's a few members right now that have compliant gear, but in a few years from now, maybe 2, maybe 3, depending on when they were issued, they could be non-compliant.
Yeah.
So by trying to get everybody on a rotation, in 5 years from now, yes, they'll have 2 sets of compliant gear, and then from there on in, we can just keep buying 6 sets of gear to be on a rotation, instead of having, the 250, 200 or $250,000 bill that I'm asking for the town for. It'll be the 37 or 38 or 39, whatever the increases are, each year to keep everybody compliant.
Yeah. And if it's not a possibility for this year, at least there's a vision for it.
Yep.
In the future years to have it done.
Yeah, I'm hoping, you know what I mean? Obviously, I understand that, budgets and everything else, but to try to get on that rotation, I think would be key, because if we miss a couple of years, the problem is you may have, once you get everything out of sorts, so to speak, where some are compliant, some aren't, you may have somebody with a pair of pants that are compliant and a jacket that's not, or vice versa, or you're taking miscellaneous gear, someone that retired, you're taking their gear and you're putting it on somebody else, so now you have 2 different pieces of gear that have different expiration dates, so that's where it gets a little difficult.
Real quick, let me ask you on the gear that you just purchased recently, is that all PFAS clear?
Not all of it, because at the time,
It was.
so some of the equipment is, to answer your question, some of it is not, because not all companies were
In compliance.
in compliance yet. And be honest with you, the gear that I have, I'm glad it wasn't, because I've had a lot of difficulties with the gear so far. Guys are getting burnt because what's happening is it's not releasing the heat like it's saying it's supposed to.
Yeah.
So
the PFAS,
the companies,
non-PFAS gear.
yeah, well, the PFAS gear that's supposed to be compliant, they're having a lot of issues with.
Yeah.
Guys are getting burnt. It's not doing the heat release. They're having heat stroke. Heat-related
just
emergencies,
stretching
things
out.
like that, yeah, so. It's like anything, when it's new, it's, they're trying to work the
First
bugs out,
phase
they just can't get to it,
yeah.
so. Any questions on expenses at all, or? Station maintenance. I don't know what you have the numbers on yours, but, last time I talked to Cody, I did cut it down a little bit. We were talking about the electricity, Cody trying to buy different credits and everything else. So we did cut it down. Cody had it, roughly at about 14,000 on our electricity. Discussions with him, we originally put it at 4,000 for outside services, but those numbers were wrong, when I was discussing with him, because it should be a little bit higher. And I was gonna have a conversation with him about that. The outside services, I know that sounds a little crazy, but we have things like, Plimo vents, that diesel, the capture system there, so when they start the trucks, the capture system, it brings everything out. It's getting at that point where it's having problems. I've had them out 4 times last month. My last 2 bills were about $1,100 to have them come out. That's one of the things that obviously building maintenance doesn't service. That's something that's warranted under us. It doesn't really fall under them. Our compressor, air compressor, that kind of, has to be serviced and checked and make sure there's no issues there. There's a few other pieces of equipment that are fire related, so to speak, washer and dryers for the gear extractors, things like that, that doesn't fall into building maintenance that we need outside services money for.
Do you have a generator on there?
Oh, we do have a generator,
Is everything still under warranty?
yeah. No. The extraction system is one of the older systems, and it just keeps blowing all the lines. They're basically air controlled through an air compressor. But because they run on a rail, it's the old system that they have, they run on a rail, and every time they run, the truck goes out, the whole system guides on the rail, and it rubs on the airlines, and basically what it does is it wears holes in all the piping and everything else. So we'll have the airline breaks all the time, we'll have leaks all the time. What happens is when the air system goes below a certain pressure, it will not release from the truck. So when they drive out of the station, if it doesn't release, it rips them off. You know what I mean? There are disconnectors there, but they still do damage.
So with modern technology, it sounds like that's not under warranty.
It was installed quite a few years back, so that's been there for probably 10 or 15 years. The newer systems are a little bit different. There are some grants out there. Unfortunately, right now, we're not compliant with that, so, there's a grant out there that I am going to probably apply for that will change the system that we have over to the newest piping. It's just more heat rated, like right now, they're only to start the vehicle and drive out of the building. Whereas the new ones, you can actually run them inside and, check everything you need to check and then shut it down.
So when was that grant due?
It's not up till next year. It's not going out till next year, so hopefully we'll be compliant, everything else.
Hopefully we'll make it until then.
Yes.
So on the electricity, we're at 14.5.
Cody had it at 14 is what he was talking about, and then making the outside services to 4,000, but that still leaves me to.
Okay, hold on. I'm confused because, yeah, I'm seeing 18.5 on the
Right,
most
okay.
recent spreadsheet.
So on one of the cuts that I made, on mine, I brought it down to 16.5, and then I moved to $2,000 over for our requests. But Cody was saying that he's gonna basically use credits to buy electricity. So for
Okay.
numbers and to separate them, he wanted us to make it at 14,000 for electricity so that he could figure those numbers out. And
Yeah.
my discussion with him was, go ahead, sorry.
I've got my notes here. He had us put it at 14.5 that day, the second meeting for the electricity, and outside services at 4,000 for a total of 18,500.
Okay,
I've got 20 here.
Okay, so he added 2,000 more,
2,000
1,500
to
more,
outside,
whatever.
yeah, 2,000 for outside service, 18.5 for electricity.
Do you know what he did there?
No. I know what he did there.
What he tried to do is basically he tried to separate the funding there, because I told him the outside services, I usually steal from the electricity, we're only paying X amount of dollars. So the rest of the money from the electricity I was using for outside services. So what he
Okay.
was trying to do is these.
So why can't we just put it in electricity if that's for outside service?
Well, because outside service may pay for, it's not electricity, it's like the Plimo vents and things like
I
that.
understand that. So take it out of electricity and put it into outside service.
That's what he did. So
But it
basically.
still says 18.5 and
Yeah,
2,000.
it should have been changed. So we changed it on ours when we had the discussion, but I don't think he changed it on.
This is from the 14th of February.
My newest one that I submitted actually has the changes on it.
So what
So,
are you showing on your changes there, chief?
so I had it as 14,000 for electricity per Cody, and then 4,000 on the outside services. But then I added, because the numbers don't add up, I added the 4,500 because we were missing 500 from there.
So you had 4,500 outside services?
I had 4,500 for outside services.
That was after our meeting, correct? Our second meeting?
After our second meeting.
Okay.
Well, I have it as during our second meeting, but if you heard 14.5,
Yeah, I had
I heard it the other way.
14,500 and 4,000 during
Okay.
the meeting.
Okay.
Is there another file on the OneDrive? Or is this there's 3 of them on there. This is the most recent one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I pulled this up.
there, I saw 2 in there when I looked.
So
You're showing what on there? 18?
if I go to fire, I've got 3. I've got one from January 11th, one from January 18th, and then one from February 14th. So we're looking at the one from February 14th,
And what are you showing for electricity on that?
18.5 and
18,500,
2,000 for outside service and nothing under supplies and equipment.
and then 2,000 for outside?
That's what it was
Yeah.
originally. And then after I made my cuts and resubmitted.
When did you send your new sheet in? Today?
I don't, no.
Okay.
This says 113 of 25, but
Okay.
on
for
the
this-
top.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, no problem. I know what he was trying to do is he was just trying to separate numbers because he was talking about, electricity credits. So he was just trying to basically separate numbers so that he knew exactly what the numbers were when he was
Yeah.
going to take the funding. So what I had was the 14,000 and the 4,000 or 45.
Well,
He
he
had
didn't
it,
know what his credits are now, and that's why he's tweaking it the way he's tweaking it.
yes,
Yeah,
so
He was
at
also,
that meeting, he didn't know what his credits were gonna be.
probably, yeah.
trying, I'm assuming you said to him that you were short on outside services at that
I
time.
am short on outside.
Yeah, so he was probably
So-
just trying to reallocate the
Yep.
funds over there to give you the funds.
He didn't give us an exact number because he wasn't quite sure what the credits were going to be.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much where we were.
Yeah, finance committee, go to fire.
Electricity had gone down?
There you go.
Yeah.
That might-
But the problem is
That should be 26, right?
even the reduced rates right now are not reduced rates.
Quite that or.
I think he's planning on buying credits from Brockton. Yeah, I guess they must have filed for so many credits and didn't use them. So,
But if he was planning on that, then the 18.5 should have went way down, and your 2,000 should have went to 4,500.
way up.
That's still nice the money.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this for this one, right?
We get to come for it.
56.
Thank you. Yeah, so the 18.5.
All right, so
That was the original one I put in, because here's my original one, it's 18.5 and the 3,000.
That was original.
That was the original one, when then we had to go back and discuss something else, and I had to make my cuts.
Right. Yeah, you did not update ours. Either one of those.
There you go. Yeah,
okay,
That's what,
Well, what I'm looking for.
it's got 18.5 and 3,000.
yeah.
Yeah. That was my
Can you see
original
that?
one that I submitted, and the date on that one is 1/7.
Mike Bennett, can you see that on your screen?
Yes.
Okay.
The date I have on that one was 1/7,
Okay.
and then the revised one that I have on here is 1/13. Yeah.
Okay.
If this is the only page, we're doing good. I mean, I can discuss it with Cody, we can leave it at the 14.5 and the 4,000, or leave it at 14 and 45. Oh,
What do you need, chief? That's the
I need,
question. What do you need?
outside services, I need the 4,500,
Okay.
so if we could leave it at that and then leave the other one at 14.
But your actual spend in 24 for electricity was only 11.4.
Yes, but all these numbers aren't 100% accurate, because like I was talking about the way, what budget it goes in there. But yes, to answer your question,
Right, so your total spend in 24, actually total spend between outside services and electricity was 13,000.
for what year, sorry?
24?
24, I have 14,230.
Well, that's what the I'm just talking the top two lines, right?
Yeah.
Services and equipment.
Yes,
So, all right, so electricity outside services, actual spend was 13,000.
so that's what was happening, whatever I was spending electricity, the balance I was using to outside services.
Right, so that's a long way to 18.5 and 3,000. So I get the 4,500 need, that makes sense. But the 18.5 just seems,
The outside services,
and 45 makes sense, like, no, I
Yeah,
get that,
yeah.
right, no, I get that part.
Yep.
But the 18.5 seems skewed
For electricity.
way high,
Yeah.
especially if we're in the process of buying back credits.
Yeah, and that's why we were talking
That's
about
why-
14.5 for electricity.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, I think increase.
That was in our second meeting.
Yeah, so you just combine it, that's all it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, typo.
Well, we'll just check that on the next meeting.
Yeah, we'll have to take care of that with Cody to make that change. But I understand, so you want 4,500 on your outside services.
That's correct.
And then, you know, if you take 1,500 out of what's there now, you'll be down to what, 16? 1,700 for electricity, because right now it's 18.5 for electricity and
Yep.
3.
Mhm.
You take one, you know, take 1,500 out of electricity and move it over to your services line. That gets you where you want to be.
Yes.
Right?
17 on the electricity.
17 on
Yeah, my
electric.
actual cuts,
Yeah. Yes.
yeah, my actual cuts were
Yeah.
to 16.5 originally,
Okay.
so.
All right.
That makes it.
All right, so we'll work that out in our, or have a conversation in our next meeting with Cody. So now we know where you stand and what you're looking for, you're on the other.
Yes.
Outside services, where you're looking.
Yeah, I need more in outside services, yes, most definitely. Okay,
Yeah, keep the lights off, you'll be fine.
But I do go by there midnight usually, and
Well, we-
it's pretty dark in there.
what we don't know is, I believe the bill for just the electric company, not the service company, correct? So we're gonna be paying the service company, but not the electrical company.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah. We're paying. Yeah. paying
Exactly.
direct.
You pay the delivery fee,
Yeah,
that's
which
it.
is more than the bill.
It is. It is.
Believe me, I understand. Vehicle maintenance, I did whatever cuts I could, you know, I cut it down another $1,500 on everything, just to try to get the numbers where I needed to be. I'm hoping that will be okay, but the best I could do.
Well, what do you got for numbers in there, chief? Just run through them real quick.
Absolutely. So I had it at 30,000, 2,000 and 4,000.
Okay, looks like we got some changes. on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, these went up,
Yeah,
not down.
because what we had was, like we just said in our last second meeting, was 30,000, 2,000, and 4,000.
I'll take it. Give me 1 second, let me just double check my original one that I submitted. So it was 41,200 is what it was, yep, so he has it on my original ones. He probably has the original one there, not the second one that I submitted, or he might have had them mixed, I don't know. I don't know,
What's it-
this is the original one that I had, that's the exact number right here,
Looks like you just might have saved the wrong file, that's all.
yeah.
Definitely seems.
But the first couple of pages that I went through, those were all where my major cuts were, so if those were right.
Yeah, I was going down the numbers when you were going through. it,
Yeah,
and
so if those are
that's what
right,
we
he must have,
discussed.
he might have mixed the two,
Right.
or, I'm not sure.
And then in the second meeting, we discussed 30,000 for outside maintenance, 2,000 for the certificates of
Yep.
license, and 4,000 on the supplies.
That's correct,
A total of $36,000.
that's correct.
Okay, so we can ask that question too, Jim. We may not be looking at the right spreadsheet up
Right, I
there.
don't think we are,
Yeah,
or at least it doesn't appear that way.
How's your spend this year on outside maintenance right now?
It's up there. As far as, outside maintenance?
Outside maintenance.
Yeah, outside maintenance, I'm up there. We've been having problems with the Blimo vents, and the compressor, back, the air compressor, so we've spent quite a bit of money. I think my last two bills was over $1,100.
yeah, about the vehicle maintenance.
Oh, vehicle,
The outside vehicle maintenance, sorry.
oh, vehicle maintenance. That's,
This year looking at-
every time you send the truck out, it's, probably $400 or $500 an hour. So yeah, we've had quite a few problems. I had to put a new turbo in, one of the trucks, that was about $7,000. And then to reprogram it, had to reprogram because they had to do work on the tower, which was another $2,600 just to reprogram them. Just every time you send the truck out, you know, it's a commercial vehicle, they get you.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's gonna be tight. I mean, fortunately for us, Tom does a fantastic job with, our maintenance, does whatever he can in-house, and he, you know, he saves a lot of the money, but when it does have to go outside because he doesn't have the computers to do it, or he doesn't have the software, the programming or something like that. And that's pretty much what happens if he doesn't have the programming and whatever it has to go over, so.
So what do you got left out of the 31,000
As of right now,
for fiscal year 25, yes, or approximately? I think that's where you were going, right? Yeah.
right now for vehicle and equipment, this one's a little older, but it's probably, I'm over 50% right now.
50%.
Yeah, over 50% right now. So I'm okay, but I've still spent a lot of money.
What you do for new ambulance this year, next year?
Yes,
So,
no ambulance this year. It's
Wait, didn't you just get a new ambulance?
we got
Like last year?
one 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. But they're on a rotation.
yeah.
They're on a rotation, which would be about every 6-7 years.
Mhm.
So,
So earlier you were talking about tuition reimbursement for some courses, that folks could go through up to $2,500, right?
Mhm.
Are those part of a certificate program? Those
no,
classes?
so you're talking about, you combine the two, one certification, and that's a specific number through the contract.
Okay,
And one's education reimbursement. The education reimbursement is up to $2,500 per person.
okay,
That's for college classes only,
okay,
and that's for 50% of the tuition for each class.
okay. And those college courses have nothing to do with any type of NFPA certification?
No,
anything like
nothing
that?
at all.
Okay,
No,
right.
nothing at all. So once, you're talking about a pro board certification?
Yeah.
For certification, for the pro board certification, which are specific classes through the pro board, through
Okay,
Department of Fire Services.
yeah,
They have to basically go to a class, study, and then go back and take the exam and pass the exam to be pro board certified.
Okay.
And then the only way they get that certification money is to show me the pro board certification.
okay,
And I usually do look on the DFS website and make sure that it's legit.
okay.
So, two different things. All right, vehicle maintenance. Those are the cuts, 36. Any questions? Okay. Ambulance supplies. I just level funded that. I think we'll be okay. You know, basically what Clinical One and other vendors have basically told me that we're looking at a little bit of an increase. But, you know, I had to make some cuts somewhere. Hopefully we'll be okay with it. You know, I usually have a little bit of, you know, supplies on hand in our supply cabinets and everything else, so it should be okay.
And just going way back, right, looking at like fiscal 22. It's 100% increase from 22.
Yeah, you know why? COVID.
Just COVID.
Because of the regular, non-rebreather that was $4 or $5, now it's $12, $15, $18, $20. And then once one vendor can't get it, the other vendors charge even more money for it. So you'll see a significant increase in, you know, all of our stuff. Our medications, I just got one medication for our truck. It's $925 for one vial of medication. It's only good for 1 year. That's it. It's absolutely crazy. And we have to have it. So we don't have any choices, you know what I mean? I think that COVID hurt everyone, especially as soon as you say RV or boat or medical, price goes up. So we've looked at different vendors to try to keep costs down. Clinical One is who we use now, but we have looked at other vendors and we do shop around sometimes. Right now, all of our medications we try to buy at the hospital. So the hospital will sell it to us at their cost, whatever they pay, we pay. So that is a little bit of a help. Before we used to do a one-to-one exchange, but no hospitals are doing that anymore. So now we buy all of our medications. Problem with it is Medicare, Medicaid is killing us because we may use, you know, a couple $100 in medications and we're only getting $400 to $500 reimbursement for, you know, certain ambulance runs. So only business I know that you can say, no, I'm not paying you. Doesn't matter what the bill is, I'm not paying you.
You're just level funding that, correct?
Level funding that, correct.
That's what I'm feeling as well.
Yep. Ambulance billing, I'm gonna level fund that as well. Like I said, I think that might increase, but we have a little bit of play there. You know, obviously we're up 200 runs. We'll probably be up another 500 or 600 next year, if not more. And, you know, I think we'll be okay with that though. And as far as emergency management goes, I just cut that at $5,000.
What's your number on emergencies?
3,000.
Yeah, that's what I have as well. Okay.
I know we get that one, right?
Not really.
No, no, that.
Yeah, so we're looking at the previous sheet.
Yeah.
Our previous meeting sheet here compared to our second meeting sheet here.
Yeah.
So that spreadsheet we're looking at is not the one that, Cody's operating from.
I think he might have split, because if the beginning ones were the new numbers that I have, those were all where my cuts were, so I might have had half of one spreadsheet and half of the other, I don't know.
But we'll figure that out.
Okay.
Jim, I have two things, if it's okay. One's a question, for anyone. Do we know when, the first set of condos is open down at Route 58? When is that?
How many have they sold? Do we even know?
I don't know how many they sold. I do have a meeting coming up with them because, just code enforcement, they've actually been working with me quite a bit. They've come down and discussed a couple of things with me. Decent company to work with so far. They're a little behind from where they thought they were going to be. I know that. I don't know exactly time frame as far as when they think the structure is going to be up or anything like that, but
I would anticipate 2027 at this point.
I was asking for your budget for
Yeah.
26, because I wanted to make sure that there was at least a thought as to what that impact is going to be, whether it's call related for ambulance or.
I'm more worried about the walk-in clinic right now than I am that other. I got some time before that building is built, before they get it occupied. And even at that, I think there'll be some runs out of there, but I don't think it'll be a significant. I think that the walk-in clinic is going to be more of an issue than most people think in the community.
And when do they anticipate that opening?
They're already in their building. So I would, if I had to project a time frame without going in there in the last couple of weeks to see where they are, the last time I went in there, they had all the walls up, all the permitting went through, as far as I know, and they're working on the main walls inside. I have the plans in my office. I would say they'd be up in my estimated guess. I would say that they'd be up before July.
The clinic is next to,
Who was that?
Cape Cod.
Same company as the one in Abington, and I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but.
Compass?
It's not a Compass. It's a private company, but there are 2 or 3 of them out there. And
I know the one in Abington, the kid in the name of it.
yeah,
Yeah,
You know, I had them in Pembroke. I had three when I was in Pembroke. I had three in Pembroke, actually four in Pembroke, and we were there every day, all day. So you'd go there and you'd walk in. You know, the problem is people think it's a walk-in clinic. They go in there and they're like, oh yeah, I just don't feel good. I have shortness of breath. I have chest pain. I don't want to go to the walk-in clinic. It's smoking me and explosive. The issue is you walk in, they don't deal with stuff like that. You know, they deal with Band-Aids and sutures and stuff like that. You know, the average cold, you have a cold, respiratory issues, things like that. But this place will have X-ray machines, they will have other stuff, so that, you know, now it's an pneumonia or anything like that, it's call an ambulance and transport to the hospital. You walk in with chest pain, you walk in with shortness of breath, call an ambulance, you know.
Even if they drive there with chest pain, and they walk in and say chest pain, don't leave, we're gonna call you.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
So what happens is they do a lot of transports out of there. You know, maybe our saving grace, and I shouldn't say this, but maybe our saving grace would be that it's not Medicare, Medicaid. So it's full reimbursement. I think that, you know, that might bring some money into the town if that is the case and we're doing that many runs.
Yeah.
But it's kind of unfair to say on my behalf. Obviously they're gonna treat everyone, but it's a private company. They can do whatever they want.
Right.
Yeah.
So that plays into my other comment, which for the rest of the committee, I think we should at some point kick the can on hiring two more FTEs, what that would look like from a budget standpoint. Probably not realistic to do it for this year, but for the near future, because if there's an opportunity to increase on the staffing side and make a reduction on the overtime costs of the savings, then that seems like it's a no-brainer, especially when you said what you just said about the walk-in clinic, right? So if having those two additional bodies puts the department in a position to be able to manage and sustain with what they're being asked to do for the community, I think there's at least a discussion to be had there.
No, I absolutely agree. And Chief, maybe if you could help us gather some statistical information on.
So 90 runs that we missed times $2,600 is $234,000.
Right.
I mean, it's significant money we're losing, you know, for the town.
So you, you know, coming from Pembroke, and if you could talk to the current chief there, and get some data on how many runs they get out of their, minute clinics or whatever it is they have over there. And we could certainly take a look at that over the course of a year, and then it could basically pay for itself. It could be a wash.
Right.
Really.
Right. And put the department in a better position for the community.
Yeah. So that would be really helpful for us to kind of rationalize that when it comes to looking at that.
Not that you're in a poor position with the community at all.
Right, exactly.
You get my point.
Any information will help, you know, like. Most definitely, you know, any numbers we can get. And I think even by changing the billing that I have and things like that, will you know, will equate to more money in the future.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, steps in the right direction to help, you know, and, you know, with more manpower is gonna be, what we need, so.
Well, I think the overtime piece for me is one of the biggest drivers, especially if you're sitting here saying that FMLA is your biggest contributor. That there's something that we can do to help with that, right? And that's what kind of triggers it in my brain to just say, look at it, because it's an expense that is outside of your control.
Yeah, and I think that the last 3 years, because when I first got there, we had a member out on FMLA for quite a bit of time. And then obviously the 4 members the next year, and then 2 members this year. You gotta remember who we're hiring is a younger generation, you know what I mean? They're walking through the door and they're starting families and everything else, so that's what we're getting, and I don't think it's going to stop. I just think it's gonna be one of those, you know, that I think police department's seeing it, school committees are seeing it, you know, just what we're up against, so.
Thank you for all that.
All right, well,
Appreciate it, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
thank you. Any more questions at all?
Hang on 1 second. We do have some members of the public on the phone. Does anybody have any questions for the fire department and their budget request? Okay, hearing none, we will close that agenda item. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Thanks, Chief. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief.
All right. Next agenda item we have is just the other budget liaison updates, but Cody is out ill today, so we'll push that to next week. And then probably finalize some of the other items there. on that specific item. Anytime you want to stay, you're welcome
Okay.
to.
Well,
Twice.
Yeah.
I don't get what's up.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks a lot. Have a great night.
So next agenda item is committee liaison updates. So the capital planning committee met last week for the first time. The chief's gear is on there. There's also a number of the ambulances on there. But nothing was really settled. We just kind of reviewed what the requests were. And then we have another follow-up meeting, I think,
The 12th.
the 12th, right?
And do we know what free cash is?
Free cash was what, 1.3?
5 or something like that.
Yeah, 1.3 was certified free cash.
Jim, on capital planning,
Hmm?
are all the requests in that didn't have a deadline of being by a certain date?
All requests that are going to be considered are in.
They are, so that's closed for this.
That is closed for this fiscal year.
Yes, okay, good. Not too many then.
For this year?
Yeah.
There was plenty.
Was there?
Yeah,
Okay.
there was plenty, but not every, you know,
Money in meetings.
exactly. Not everybody's gonna be able to, get what they want, so. Gonna have to pick and choose some things. The 12th,
Oh, Mark.
March. So, and I think we'll be having a couple of the department heads in who are looking for things.
Both chiefs replied that they'd be there. I have not heard back from Scott.
Okay.
Is that Zoom?
Yeah, it'll, no, what's,
No.
It's in person, but
we could probably
we can
set up
probably-
soon.
yeah.
I was
just curious.
Yeah, we could set up soon.
6 o'clock, you
It
did.
was on Zoom, because the one young
Yes,
lady
yeah.
didn't come.
6, yes.
Yeah. So yes, happy for everyone's to come and have their input, because there's a lot of things out there. But that's all I have for liaison updates. Anybody else?
Wait, personnel, you want to talk about that, because Cheryl wasn't here.
The wage and,
Personnel,
Personnel, I missed that.
Oh.
I was in Florida. I said you would.
That's right.
I couldn't attend.
that's right.
We tried to hook it up.
No.
We tried that, believe me, they tried. So, sure, wage and personnel. I don't have my notes on that.
procurement disbanded, got,
Right,
yeah, went over to the,
We're disbanded.
well, it's a 3-member committee through the selectmen now,
The selectmen.
going forward. It's-
Okay.
yeah. So we don't have to, the finance committee would be a part of that. Since they're gonna be doing all the negotiating and they have a new clerical union, that takes another 20 people out of the non-union section. I think that only leaves them with a handful, like
Yeah.
10 or,
7 or 10 or.
yeah, something like that. So, they'll just be dealing with Cody directly, I think, at that point. And the selectmen do all the executive sessions to negotiate the CBAs, so we don't really participate in
Right,
that, so
steps are all
they're all finalized.
finalized,
There's
correct.
no changing any of
Right, so
that.
everything's
We
pretty
did
much
that
where,
last year.
right,
So we don't
everything's
have to
where
go
it needs to
through.
be and time to disband them.
Yep, and that's certainly fine. Schools, so I don't know if anybody watched the Silver Lake Regional School Committee meeting last week?
No, I did not.
Okay, so
Read about it.
they got their E&D certified at 2.3 million. They're gonna be using that to close their gap on their budget from the school committee perspective. They're not making any cuts this year.
I'll take 2.3 million.
Yeah, well, they'll take all but 800,000.
All
That,
that,
everything else will be, the motion that they approved was a FY 26 operations budget of $40,644,440. They directed the superintendent to allocate $3,533,000 for additional resources. Their anticipated circuit breaker funding is 2.5 million. FY 26 grant and revolving account will be $1,033,000, and the final approved budget that was voted was $44,177,440.
That's Silver Lake.
Silver Lake.
and that's
probably
it,
yes,
and what's the
questions or-
increase of that?
At the time, our contribution was like a 5.8 or 5.9% increase over last year.
So they're taking 2.3 million, they're gonna reserve 800,000
Mhm.
and apply 1.5 million to the budget.
Now, a couple of comments at the end. Again, you should watch the video. It's only an hour. There were comments at the end that they recognize that they have a budget issue next year. They're going to be hitting a fiscal cliff. I would, there's probably a number of things just from a financial perspective that I might have done differently, but they didn't. And that certainly is their choice, but they will have some hard choices to make next year. The challenge will be is that, they're going to have to come back to the towns for more money. And that may be however that manifests itself through an override, through taxes, whatever. But that's what Silver Lake voted on last week. And I don't think we've seen anything from the elementary school as of yet.
Nope.
So that's still, up in the air.
Sent the note just now.
They did?
What did they?
Today, just letting me.
Today, that comes out of it today?
Yeah, only today.
Oh, that. So, okay. Yeah. I think we all got that one. Did you read through that, Mike? Just curious.
I did not yet, no, I was in Jersey until I came out.
Okay.
So, no.
All right. Let me get back to my notes for this meeting. All right, so that's about it for the committee liaison updates. Anybody have anything else for that part of the meeting? All right, so we'll close out that agenda item. We will move on to the correspondence and as may arise. Correspondence, we did get an email from some of the I guess specialists at the school. So I'll just and it came with an attachment. I guess we should enter that as part of like the record, I guess, right?
Yeah,
The attachment.
I think so.
Yeah.
Can you share that on the screen if we didn't look at it, or
Sure.
then it'll become part of the video?
The other, are you on?
I am not.
I'll just email it to you, Lindsay, and you
Okay.
can just pull it up on the screen
Okay.
and share it with everyone else.
For the Halifax Elementary School.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes. Mhm. Should be there. There.
I just got them both up there.
Now you got both of them.
Yeah.
Can you send me those to?
Hmm?
Can you send those to me?
Yeah.
I didn't get them.
I think you're on here,
I didn't get them.
right there.
I didn't get them.
Yeah, she's on there.
Okay, so this is what we received today from Should be a share. Share, see the green box with the arrow? Share, select that. Share that, okay.
There you go.
Mike, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we received this today from from three specialists at the elementary school. Just to, I guess, give us an idea of what, the work that they do every day, and how critical it is to the children that go to the school. Now, undoubtedly, I think anything that, in my opinion, that has to do with children needing special attention or some type of special education or assistance in, enhancing their own ability to learn stuff is always critical in their upbringing. And I think it's good to read through this. I think it's a good thing to understand, because I don't believe anybody who has had children or has children wants the school to be sacrificed in any way. However, I think, it's really, we're making two recommendations to the town. One will be our standard budget with what we can afford. The other will be with the potential override, and it's up to the residents to vote on that as to whether they want it or not. It's not really, we will recommend one or the other, and we'll vote on that at that time when we get those. As I said, it certainly is these people are valuable resources, and the children that leverage these resources, I'm sure, benefit greatly from them. And I don't believe anybody here on this committee wants to see them go away in any shape or form. But, we have to, as everyone understands economics, it's all about trade-offs, right? So it's not like there aren't any more dollars for us to allocate. And it's, you have to not do something to do something else. Those are the trade-offs we need that need to be considered here. Anybody have any questions? Okay, anything else? I don't think we got any other emails from any other citizens or employees. So as may arise, anybody have anything for the committee as a whole, since we're all here? Okay. All right. So public participation. We're coming to the close of our meeting. Does anyone, we have, I think, a couple of people still left on. Anybody have any questions for the Finance Committee? Okay, hearing none, we will close out that section. Next meeting planning is what, next Monday, right? Next Monday, and the school will be there. Yes? Is the school day on the 13th or
No, that's the 17th.
the 17th? So the elementary school will be coming to meet with the Finance Committee on the 17th. So I plan on, we're going to have that as an in-person meeting.
Their meeting's 16th, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the 10th is Zoom, the
10th is
live.
Yeah, the 10th is Zoom. That's next Monday. The 17th is the following Monday, and that'll be live because we'll have the school here with us. Here.
17th. Get anybody on for next Monday or no?
I think so.
No, we're gonna have Cody to go through probably some of the other budgets that he's closed out internally here in town hall. Just to kind of work our way through those. So, and we can take a look at the fire budget again with Cody on the phone. Okay?
So the 10th,
Yes, sir.
Zoom,
Yep.
and the 17th with the school.
Yep.
And when you say the school, does it Halifax Elementary or Silver Lake?
I think it's gonna be just the elementary school
At 6 o'clock.
at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock in person.
Yes. All right.
Good meeting.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of our agenda. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. Roll call vote, Cheryl?
Yeah.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
Mr. Johnston?
Yes, do adjourn, please.
You, Mr. Bryan?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Rignetta?
Yes, sir.
And I am a yes as well. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming in.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.